Gabby, guess what?
What?
I had to fight my way to class today.
Please elaborate.
The geese.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Real Deal, Ball State's premier entertainment news show. I'm your host, Gabby Kramer.
And I'm Owen DeGeese, a black belt in goose fighting.
Why did you have to fight the geese, though?
They were asking for it, Gabby. They looked mighty kickable.
How dare you, bro? Come on, geese are people, too.
Yeah, you can fight people.
You fought people.
Maybe, maybe not. You don't know me, Gabby.
I clearly know you better than you think, therefore you have not fought anyone, and the geese did nothing wrong.
Well, if they weren't in my way, then they wouldn't have gotten kicked.
You were probably in their way.
What do you mean? I go to school here. I pay to be here. They don't.
It's a free country, man.
I don't think that means what you think that means.
The proof is in the pudding, bruh.
What? Pudding? Whatever. Segment time.
So I know Valentine's Day was last week, but I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I never really thought I would have watched. Now, it isn't that I don't like romance movies, it's just one of those film genres I find myself going to the least. But this last week or so ago, I went to visit my girlfriend and spend Valentine's weekend with her. She's part of a student union board, and there they were hosting a Valentine's movie double feature. The first feature is the one that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. 10 Things I Hate About You is a 1999 rom-com starring Julia Stiles as Kat and Larissa Olenek as Bianca. The two are sisters, and Bianca finds herself interested in a boy named Cameron, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. However, their dad does not want his daughter going on with some boys while in high school and making some silly mistakes. He made a deal with his two daughters. If Bianca wants to date a guy, Kat must also find someone as well so they aren't left out. After Bianca tells Cameron about this deal, it is up to Cameron and Michael, played by David Krumholtz, who is also in the Santa Claus movie that I did know, and I forget his name. I can't remember it right now what his name is in it. But I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's him. He's in it as well. So basically, they're trying to find someone just as abrasive or someone that really stands out. They land on Patrick, played by Heath Ledger. He is bribed into taking Kat out on a date, which he agrees to because, hey, who wouldn't like free money? What follows is Patrick struggling to get Kat to go out with him, but then later they agree to go out, and an unexpected love begins to bloom between the two. This one was really not afraid to crack jokes, a lot of which I thought were really funny. All the characters played their part well, and the entire sequence of scenes that took place at the party, come on, so much fun to watch. Also, Patrick and Kat going on a date by having a paintball fight, yeah, the Notebook couldn't have pulled that one off. Also, another thing I didn't know was that 10 Things I Hate About You was based on a play written by William Shakespeare called The Taming of the Shrew, which I thought was pretty cool. While Kat and Patrick go through some ups and downs, and later, spoiler warning, Kat finds out that Patrick was being bribed to go out with her, and to her it seemed like he was never really into her in the first place. This sends Kat running away from Patrick, and it looked as if their relationship was over. It wasn't until the following day where class was in session and the students in Kat's English class, which Patrick is also in, they were to write their own version of Shakespeare's Sonnet 141. It is here when, spoiler warning again, Kat writes a sonnet about the 10 things she hates about Patrick, only to end it by saying that she hates that she still loves him even after all that's happened. That part was definitely a real tearjerker moment, and I really thought it was a great way to explain the naming of the film. It ends with the two reconciling with each other with a kiss, and Patrick uses his bribe money he got to be with Kat and bought her a new guitar since she wanted to start making music. Now, I'm not the biggest viewer of the fine arts of romance films, but what I will say is that this definitely was one of my all-time favorites. It never felt very cheesy or cliche like what you usually see in romance. A lot of the moments in this felt very real, and hey, people mess up sometimes, and dumb mistakes are made. That's what high school was like for all of us. It showed that even through all those mishaps and drama you may go through with a significant other, that if your love for another person is strong enough and you care about each other, you will get through about anything. Now, little said about Cameron and Bianca's relationship after they got together, but for Kat and Patrick, I definitely think that they would be able to power through just about anything. and continue to have a very strong relationship. And that made me really happy to see. If you're a fan of rom-com films, then I definitely say this is a must-watch. And if you aren't a fan of these kinds of movies, you should still watch it. But that is all I have for you guys this week. I'm Drew Schuler, and I will see you all in the next one.
You heard me. The proof is in the pudding.
Do geese eat pudding? How's that relevant?
They can if they want. It is a free country.
Gabby, they're geese.
And? Are you saying you're anti-geese?
Yeah, a little.
How dare you?
They were like biting my ankles on the way to class.
Let them attack you. Obviously, you were doing something to them.
How was I doing something wrong? I was walking to class and they just started like snipping at me.
Well, you were probably walking funny.
How do you walk funny?
We all know you have a really weird walk.
I do not.
Really? Walk right now.
Okay, I'm gonna walk to the next segment. You guys want
I'm just going to come out and say, currently, my favorite thing is The Walton Files. It's a series on YouTube. It's analog horror, which takes the old school analog VHS format and makes it scary. It's currently a pretty popular genre on YouTube, and I think The Walton Files might be my favorite. It's inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, alongside the VHS tape series on YouTube. It tells the story of an old school burger chain with animatronics called Bond's Burgers, owned by college best friends Felix Kranken and Jack Walton. Things are seemingly normal until Jack mysteriously goes missing only a few weeks before the restaurant is set to open. Then it gets more mysterious when Jack's wife disappears and a few other Bond's Burgers employees also go missing. The Walton Files follows a series of Bond's Burgers training tapes, old recordings of Bond's Burgers inspired cartoons, and the third episode is like a Let's Play style episode of an old haunted arcade game, as it tells the story of Jack's daughter, Sophie, who the story seems it's going to follow for the rest of the series. I don't want to spoil too much because I want you to go and watch it. I'm obsessed with it. I want you to follow the episodes, the Find Jack Walton website, and even the soundtrack that was written for the series. People constantly compare it to Five Nights at Freddy's because it started off as a FNAF fan game, and it's clear where the inspiration is. But it was also inspired by things like The Shining and Hereditary, and even things like the Blair Witch Project and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think the story is more mature than Five Nights at Freddy's. Instead of being only about murderous animatronics and that's where the horror is, The Walton Files is a story about human nature and our failures as people and the horror that lies there. And there are some truly chilling moments throughout the series. I watched it during the summer, and I'll be honest, some of the scenes really caught me off guard and kept me up all night. I was seeing the main animatronic Bond in my sleep, to be honest. The fourth episode is due to come out soon in a series of 6 episodes in this first season of the series. While we wait for the next Walton Files episode, here's some other analog horror series that will hold you over until then. There's the Mandela Catalog, a series about people navigating alternates, which are different versions of humans that are wrong and also incredibly dangerous. There's the FNAF VHS tapes, one of the sources of inspiration for the Walton Files. It takes the original lore of Five Nights at Freddy's and makes it way scarier, in my opinion. Then there's Harmony and Horror, a story about a twisted toy maker and the impact he has on his family. And then there are some of the OG ones, like Local 58, created by Candle co-creator Chris Straub, about a local station in West Virginia that gets mysteriously hijacked over decades. And also Gemini Home Entertainment, which is a series of nature documentaries or short guides that seem to be hijacked by something inhuman. A lot of these series play on our fear of the place and the uncanny valley where our nostalgia can fall into. So many familiar aesthetics, and they're terrifying and wrong and twisted, and I'm obsessed with this genre. And I can't wait to not only see the Walton Files 4, but also where the future of analog horror takes us. I'm Tiara Spells. I'm incredibly happy to be back here at The Real Deal, and that's all from me this week.
What do you think? A 2? That was at least a 5.
No, this is out of 100.
I do not walk weird.
Obviously, the geese disagree.
I wish they would just disappear.
No, geese deserve the best treatment.
Sorry, Gabby. Geese do not deserve rights.
They do, and I hope the first goose president is soon.
Well, consider me gone if that happens.
We didn't want you here anyways. What we did want was this next segment.
Tom Holland is once again topping the box office after the success of Spider-Man No Way Home with his latest movie, Uncharted. Based on the video game of the same name, Tom Holland plays our dashing Nathan Drake, and Mark Wahlberg plays Sully as the two partner up to find the treasure hidden by the Magellan crew from the first expedition around the world. When they go to an auction to steal a golden cross that is believed to be linked to the Magellan crew, where they meet our bad guy, Santiago Moncada, played by Antonio Banderas, and Joe Braddock, his hired mercenary, played by Tati Gabrielle. Of course, the auction goes wrong and action-packed stunt scenes ensue until we meet the last part of the puzzle in Barcelona, Chloe Frazer, played by Sophia Ali. Now, I've never played Uncharted, haven't even really watched a run-through, so I went into this movie pretty blind. I knew the names Nathan Drake and Sully and that there was an Indiana Jones, Lara Croft type story, so that, coupled with my love for all things piratey and adventure themed, that was enough for me to want to watch it. And as far as the video game movies go, I think this one was pretty successful. It was fast-paced and well shot. It definitely had a little plot jumps that come along with basing a movie off a video game, but what it lacked in story, it made up for in Easter eggs. Nolan North, the man who voiced Nathan Drake in the games, has a cameo as a hotel guest, which was actually pretty fun to see. We get nice little callbacks throughout the movie to make a lot of pop culture references, coming full circle, including jokes about the age difference between Holland and Wahlberg, and a joke about the dating app Tinder. The movie boasts an almost 2-hour runtime and has a PG-13 rating. Directed by Ruben Fleischer, who's known for directing Zombieland and Venom, you can really see Fleischer's humor come through. There are quite a few moments in this film that are genuinely funny and get a response from the audience. This movie was a nice surprise in an otherwise slow time for movie theaters right now. It has a 90% on the audience side of Rotten Tomatoes, which is usually the side I agree with. And over President's Day weekend, it topped the box office with $51 million in earnings domestically. If this energy keeps up, I'm sure it will make up for the $120 million budget. Uncharted is definitely getting its time to shine, especially compared to movies like Mortal Kombat and Assassin's Creed. Overall, Uncharted was a step above fine. It was cute and it was fun, and I'm always here for a Tom Holland movie. As we approach March, I definitely think Uncharted will slow down as Batman releases and rules the box office until Morbius and then Doctor Strange release. But until then, I give Uncharted 2 treasure ships out of 0. That's all from me this week. I'm Jamie Howell.
Okay, that was a great segment, but I bet you hate geese.
I have it on good authority that you are very wrong.
What authority?
Jamie, obviously.
Okay, what does Jamie have to do with any kind of authority?
She is the geese police.
Tell me you're kidding.
No, you silly goose.
How dare you?
What?
Never call me a silly goose again.
Okay, but what I will do is move on to the last segment.
I'm Stephen J. Mason. The J stands for Jamaican Athletics. Have you ever watched a series and disliked it, only to come back to find something amazing? A few years ago, I watched a romantic drama and thought it was melodramatic crap. The characters infuriated me. The two leads couldn't get along at all. The guy was always getting yelled at for being an inconsiderate jerk, and the girl was always getting annoyed at him for being an inconsiderate jerk. Then at the end, they got together. Figures, right? However, I got through all 26 episodes pretty quickly, and it was a very watchable show, despite it all. I figured that was all it really had going for it. Over the years, I would sometimes think about it, but not too often. Though it never really left completely. So I figured I would rewatch it and see if I felt differently. If not, I could always laugh at it again. On rewatch, I found gold. Suzuka is a 2005 romantic drama anime series that follows the high school lives of Yamato Akitsuki and the eponymous Suzuka Asahina. Suzuka is a star athlete. Yamato starts as a below-average guy. From the outset, you might think this setup would flow into how Yamato wows Suzuka and makes her fall in love with him. But if you go into that mindset, you're going to be disappointed like I was. Instead, I realized something. This series isn't about a boy impressing a girl. It's about how a boy becomes someone worth admiring. Yamato is a young man who's constantly failing. He fails to impress people. He fails to make himself look cool. He fails to know what he even wants out of his life. People around him, usually women, often tell him he's an inconsiderate jerk and doesn't take other people's feelings into account. Everyone always seems to be against him. The world seems to use him as a chew toy, and he doesn't have many friends on top of it all. In short, Yamato represents how every teenage boy sees himself and the world at some point. Not necessarily how they appear, but what it feels like to be in that position. The series gives him a lot of space to fail, and he fails a lot. Each episode usually sees him make a fool of himself in some way, but he never lets it get to him. He picks himself up, he learns from his mistakes, and he keeps going. Eventually, he figures out what he wants to do with his adolescence, who he wants to be, and who he wants to be with. Had I known all of this from the very beginning, it wouldn't have had any impact. But because I got to witness what it took for him to reach these conclusions, I knew how much it meant to him. Yamato's not perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. He does his best to do right by people. He always has good intentions, but most times he ends up hurting people's feelings. However, he never lets his issues with people just sit. He actively tries his best to fix them whenever he causes problems. He'll ask for advice from people more experienced than him and seek a resolution that makes everyone happy. It doesn't always work out, but he always tries. For most of the series, Yamato is focused on making the people around him happy. But when he joins the track and field team as a sprinter, he finds something he's genuinely good at, something he wants to do. When he yells that he will be the greatest sprinter in the nation, everyone writes him off. But he never apologizes for it. He may apologize for his mistakes, but he never, ever apologizes for who he is. Once he's dedicated, he starts making real progress in his goals. He gets the respect of his team. People start to look up at him for once, and he starts meaningfully connecting with Suzuka. This highlights the true value of Suzuka as a series. The point isn't to see two people get together at the end of the runtime. It's about seeing a genuine guy become his very best and devote himself to goals he really, really cares about. This includes becoming his best and earnestly pursuing romantic relationships. This series is at its most valuable if you view it as a guide for what you should strive to be as a young man or even a young person in general. Yamato is an inspiration, not because he's the perfect guy, but because he's flawed. He's stubborn and he's inconsiderate. But these things don't weigh him down and they don't define him. He's someone we can all look up to as an example of a genuine, kind-hearted guy who always tries his best, always tries to learn from his mistakes, and always strives for something worthwhile. It's a shame that Suzuka isn't widely known or well-regarded. I'm guilty myself of writing the series off as a waste of time, but now I can see the value it truly holds. It's rough around the edges, and it's a product of its times. Yet, in spite of all that, I can honestly say it has more to offer you and me than many modern shows and movies. Remember, it's never too late to learn from your mistakes. It's never too late to pursue something important, and it's never too late to try your best. Thank you.
So what have we learned today, Owen?
Kick a goose if you have to.
No.
We can't trust Jamie.
No.
Our final words are going to be awesome.
Maybe. Here they are, though.
Hey folks, this week we're going to talk about yet another one of my favorite movies, Forrest Gump. Clocking in 2 hours and 22 minutes, this is one of the longest movies I've talked about so far. It follows Forrest Gump, a simple dude with nothing but good intentions. He's running through childhood with his best friend and only friend, Jenny. His mama teaches him the ways of life and leaves him to choose his own destiny. Forrest ends up joining the army to serve in Vietnam, meeting new friends Bubba and Lieutenant Dan. He wins medals, creates a famous shrimping fishing fleet that has a restaurant inspired by the movie and its source book, like a real-life one that you can go to. It's pretty sweet. He jogs across the country multiple times before stopping because he was ready to go home. He starts a ping-pong craze, creates the iconic smiley face, writes slogans for bumper stickers and even some songs. He donates to people, and he meets the president several times. However, this is all irrelevant to Forrest, who's only been able to think about his childhood sweetheart, Jenny Curran, who screwed up her life pretty bad with drugs. In the end, all that he wants to do is prove that anyone can love anyone. Despite showing the deterioration of drugs and prostitution, life and death, and some pretty brutal scenes taking place in Vietnam, the movie somehow was able to keep a pretty light mood, and it even got a PG-13 rating. The movie was made on a budget of about $55 million, and it destroyed the box office, this is a long one, better stop that prompter. The movie got $678,226,133 worldwide. There is so much trivia for this movie that I could not do it any justice. I strongly recommend that everybody watch this movie if you haven't already, even the producers back there in that little glass box. And then go to the IMDb trivia page. That's all I have for this week, so I'm going to hand it off to my lovely co-host, Gabby Kramer.
Thank you, thank you. This week I'm going to talk to you all about another Disney movie. I don't know what it is about the air recently, but I've binging so many Disney movies, specifically the more recent ones. But before I dive into the specific movie this week, I just want to point out how amazing all the details that go into a Disney movie are. Every time I watch one, I'm just mind-boggled at how realistic the background looks, and it's always so pretty, and it's just brings a smile to my face. Anyways, enough about my tiny brain not being able to comprehend greatness. Let's talk about Coco. This movie about a young boy, Miguel, and his journey into the land of the dead is one that is filled with good laughs, some good cries, and some really good music. Miguel is a young boy who lives in Santa Cecilia with his family, who happens to be celebrating Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. This is the holiday celebrated in many Latin American countries where your family sets up ofrendas, altars with pictures of those who have passed, and offerings to give to them. This celebration tells you just how much family means in this culture, which ends up being an issue for Miguel as he is a large enthusiast of music, but his family has forbidden it. After getting in a fight with his grandparents and parents about this said topic, he runs off to a cemetery where he finds a grave that has a guitar that he has seen in one of his family's photos. The grave he finds this guitar in is that of the famous musician De La Cruz, who Miguel ends up putting together as his great-great-grandfather. Knowing this, Miguel confronts his family about the lineage being that of musicians, and he is again faced with more backlash, in which he retreats back to the grave that found the guitar in, and with some Disney magic, he's transported into the land of the dead. Here, Miguel runs into his elder family members that have passed, and they try to send Miguel home under one condition: he can no longer play music. Miguel, unsatisfied with this blessing, goes off into the land of the dead in order to find De La Cruz to get his blessing, knowing that he would allow Miguel to play music. This is a race against the clock as Miguel is beginning to turn into a skeleton like the rest of his family in the land of the dead, and he has until sunrise to be sent back to the land of the living, or he will have to remain in the land of the dead and not be able to return home. Although this movie has high stakes, it never gets unfriendly, and it is a great time for any and all families, or college kids, no shame, to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, and the music in it, and the colors, and everything about it was so great. This film has got me wanting to watch even more Disney movies, so probably stay tuned for another one next week.
Is that all you got, Gabby? That was an excellent closing word. I'm so happy for you. As always, thank you for watching. If you want to see anything else from us here at The Real Deal, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website for all things entertainment. I'm Owen DeGeese.
And I'm Gabby Kramer. Thanks for watching.